Hello and welcome to this series that we do every week called those words that you see on the screen. I swear, every time we do this, I feel like I've forgotten how to do it, but that's because I never really tried to come up with like a routine for like the intro or the outro, really. I think we should apologise for last week's entry into the series. Not just because it was on the Sabata and we didn't really try that hard. It was the audio. It was really poor, and well, it was beyond poor. I can guarantee though we will not have any such issues this week.
Can you guarantee that?
I cannot guarantee. What I can guarantee is that we're going to be talking about the experimental plasma charger, which the EPC is just it's the EPC. No one calls it experimental plasma charger. I've seen people call it the plasma charger, which is well, I guess it is its name. It's like you can call it that, but it's the EPC. That is how it's known. That is how it is recognised. And
I heard Reaper call it the plasma pistol.
That's because Reapy Ron is a bonehead. What did you just call it?
An egg.
I thought you called him a gimp. Oh God!
Egg.
No, he's not a gimp. He's a lovely man.
Egg.
But he is the enemy. What?
Egg.
Can you stop that? Can you stop that? All right. Well, you probably know. I mean, these haven't been getting that many views recently, so maybe it's because I haven't been explaining. So in the Overclock workshop, we each present an idea for a clean, balanced, and unstable overclock for the item in question. Let's just begin. Get the worst out of the way, basically, because I'm really not happy with my clean, specifically.
You're happy with your other ones? That was the beginning of the jabs.
Yeah, there's a lot of this. I forgot to. Oh, that's actually the official part of the series. Yeah, we verbally assault each other regularly, or more. It's more like Tyler assaulting me, to be honest.
Yeah, because I never do anything worse than something, and Harry consistently does.
And me recoiling in fear. Yeah, so we got this utter travesty. My clean overclock, double trouble. Oh God, I don't even want to read it. it's almost like it's almost like an unstable though, just disguised as a clean, because yeah, fires 2 shots side by side, one with a chance to stun, the other with a chance to fear. So obviously that's technically doubles your ammo consumption. I want to basically ignore the rest of what's in the brackets though, because I don't think this should. Even if this should exist, which maybe it shouldn't, I don't want it to affect charge shots at all. Thinking about that just hurts my head, and as a clean, it doesn't really make sense to me. This is just what makes normal shots very, very exciting, potentially too exciting. I think the only it's really just a question of what I really want to latch onto about this, which is kind of honestly the double shot thing I like, because obviously it does technically double your ammo consumption, but your DPS is going to be much higher. But then heavy hitter reduces your ammo as well. Yeah, I don't. It's starting already. I honestly don't really see how this would work. Well, I see how it would work. I don't really see its place, to be honest, in the game.
So what happens if both these shots side by side? Do they like testicles, or are they more like, how close are they?
Yeah,
they hit the same target.
Yeah, that's kind of the idea as well.
So you're supposed to stun and fear.
I think it probably should be quite a low chance. You know, the original idea was, well, it says there. It says that each one has 50%. So basically, the idea is that you will either stun or fear, which is quite extreme. If you can do that with every shot, you can either stun or fear. And I don't really even like stun, so I don't know why I put it here. But actually, that's kind of where it came from, I think, because I wanted something like that. Because EPC doesn't have, I don't think it has fear or stun anywhere on it in any form.
So
and
you feel
I
the
wanted.
best case scenario is both on the same
Yeah,
one.
yeah. Actually, I
So
did.
do they not kind of cancel each other out, or maybe
No,
doesn't stun fuck with fear,
no.
or is it just they're stunned for like a couple seconds and then they run away?
Yeah, because the way fear works is that it just forces an enemy to. It doesn't really matter the direction as long as it's. Well, sometimes they do kind of come towards you. It's weird, but it will be. They have to move 10 meters from where they were feared from, no matter what. It's not a time-based thing, which is why stun kind of works, but usually it's more noticeable with actual slowdown effects because then they just move slower. With this, it's sort of just like, oh, they're stunned, and then they just run away after they're stunned. It's kind of weird. Um.
They're
So yeah, like I
basically
said, I
not in
wasn't
any
too.
state to attack for an
What?
extended period of time.
Yeah,
Because it
and
won't attack while being stunned, and it won't attack while being feared, will it?
no, no. Um. Hmm. Like I said, I'm not too proud of it, but I would posit the question of, would it be better if it was a different category? Would there be a chance for this to
Well,
be something if it had
no.
did need
But, like,
downsides? I don't know.
I mean, first of all, yeah,
Yeah.
it would.
In
But second of all,
in the state
I
that
don't
is shown here.
couldn't you just add fear? Maybe add fear to charge shots, add stun to normal shots.
That's not a
Couldn't they
bad
just-
idea, actually.
So like the big orb, it's like, and the enemies run away, or the normal ones they're just more concussive, and they'll fucking cave their skull in.
And then maybe
Like,
like slightly reduced damage on each.
Yeah, there's probably more a balance, but
Yeah.
yeah, just so then you can have access to both, but you pick which one and not this shit.
Yeah, and then I mean, look at what I wrote about the charge shots, which I disregarded straight away because basically, obviously, it doesn't fire 2 charge shots, but apparently it can apply both of the effects anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really. This is one of those ones where I do have to question myself as to why I stuck with it, because it's not like I haven't changed others after making them. I don't know how this made it through. As it is, in general,
Yeah.
I would like to see fear specifically. I think fear with the charge shots, especially because I'm not a big fan of the. I don't think anyone's really a big fan of the normal EPC charge shots, just fully standard. But if you
I
can
don't think the
inflict
game
fear with
is,
them,
considering like
no, because
2
of,
of the 3 tier 5s like change them. How
yes,
they work.
that's true. Which I need to sort of. I need to use the EPC a bit more because I feel like it's got even more potential than. I feel like there's potential
I'll
that
be
everyone is
honest.
still missing. That I wanted to uncover.
I am like mentally leveraging the EPC to try and get me to play more because I was, as mentioned, watching Reaper play thing and he talked about EPC and I'm like, you know what? I really like the EPC and I really think it's good, but I
Didn't
do
we
not
put it
use it
in
enough.
S tier?
We did, and I do stand by it.
And I do think it probably is the best driller secondary.
I think
like objectively.
it's up there in secondaries. Its damage, elemental, and utility are like all very strong. You know, it is a very good secondary to the point where I think it is S tier. Like I stand by it. I just don't often use it. Well, I used to use temperature shock with it and like flying nightmare, which not many people use, I don't think. But yeah, I want to use it more, and I want to actually learn how to EPC mine. That's going to be something I'm going to try and get myself to play Deep Rock War to just do.
Well, it's not EPC mining that's really that important anymore. It's more so just being able to use Thing Containment Field.
Yeah.
Which I think might inflict fear. Obviously, I can't look right now.
I think it does as well. I don't know where I'm pulling it from.
It doesn't say in game if it does, but I can't look at Carl at the moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, just stop wasting time on this utter garbage. And move on to something that is not utter garbage, but utterly boring.
Right. Okay. First of all, I'd rather be boring than create the shit that you do. Second of all,
we can tell.
I think, once again, This is more conceptually than execution-wise, but I think it gets the point across. Adjusted valves is a bunch of word mumbo-jumbo that the game uses just to imply that shit's going on. Damage increase is why it's the icon. If you want to show the stuff on screen, +5 direct damage, +10 charge damage. I think we may have mentioned that we should add a bit more charge damage.
Well,
but the point is...
Go on. I'm going to need to look at something game.
Okay. The point is that the EPC, generally as a whole, you either have strong, normal shots, or you have strong charge shots. Now, the charge shots can be quite different in how they are strong, but that's generally how it is. Well, you have access to both. More often than not, you are using one more than the other in each build. There is no build where you use both equally. And you will adjust accordingly. Like if it's a smaller enemy, you use direct. If it's a larger enemy, you use charged. That's not a thing for the EPC really. That's not really how you use it. And I don't think this is inherently the solution, but this is kind of my point, that it buffs both sides equally. So if you play your mods right, you could use both. And a kind of like a normal one, really, which I guess tier 5 kind of fucks with, but which I think is kind of why tier 5.
It definitely it's riding an interesting line, because specifically direct damage, if it was any more, I think it would almost make heavy hitter irrelevant, especially because heavy hitter, it's not much more. I think it's +15, which is, that's a fair bit more. But it does also have downsides, unlike this, and this also adds to charge damage. So I think it's riding an interesting line, but I think it's not too strong. But then the charge damage is a bit too low, I think. But then I'm looking at Overcharger, which is the unstable that is just more charge damage, not damage. It's +30. Yeah, so I think +15 might be okay. Yeah, that's the thing. Because at first I saw the 10 charge damage, but the charged damage isn't much. It's not insanely. There's not a massive difference. It's not like the normal shots are a pea shooter and the charge damage is like a grenade. It's just the charge damage is a fair bit more than normal shots, and he's in an area. That's the main difference. So actually, maybe the values are fine that are being shown here, but at the same time, I would definitely use this over Overcharger, because I don't like Overcharger at all. And I think something that just slightly makes the charge shot slightly better and has no downsides is much more enticing. And I don't think it being much better, I don't think it being very, I don't know. This is something that I've sort of, I don't want to say struggled with, but I've just thought about in regards to these videos. And it's like, I can't always be comparing it to things that a weapon already has, because, like, for example, the GK2, which we'll get to eventually, but it's like its overclocks aren't very just exciting, and it's almost hard to not make every overclock stronger than everything it already has. But this sort of rides that line where it could be, because of the ones in game, that it sort of is the middle ground of. Which is why it's very, I say it rides that line. It rides that line mainly by being a clean. If it had some kind of downside, then there'd be no worry. But at the same time, like I keep saying, it rides that line. So it's not 100% necessary for it to have a penalty for it not to just take over Overcharger and Heavy Hitter.
The thing is that you could bring it up a bit more and it would be quite pleasant, right? You could increase the damage by maybe double what you're seeing here, but then add a negative. But the negative shouldn't affect either side, which really just, because then if you have both, but then you negatively affect charge time or some shit like that, then you lean more towards direct damage. That would just be how it is.
I mean, honestly, I think as it is, something like a small velocity penalty or something could be worthwhile.
Well, yeah, it's
something small, because heavy hitter is ammo and heat generation.
Heat generation, actually, yeah, that's another one.
But it's already
if
there.
You were to increase it to balance it, but...
And then Overcharger is cooling rate, and the charge shots use more ammo, which is one of the main reasons Overcharger is kind of whack.
Yeah.
So I think I would definitely use it over Overcharger, but I don't think it's necessarily knocking either Overcharger or Heavy Hitter out of the equation entirely. And
Yeah, it's just I don't know. I think the playstyle that I picture in my head, while this may not be the best way to replicate it in game, is just using all the EPC standardly, pretty much. Like, so
yeah,
you can use the direct damage, you can use the charge, you can like, a bunch of hordes, a bunch of like normal glyphids, bang, 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 normal shots, and then there's a like a Praetorian in the back, charge shot, and like do a bunch
it's
of damage
definitely a
to
weird
it.
thing though about the secondaries, where there's sort of like an evolution of how far away they get from just being used normally. Because the Sabata is
Yeah,
just a standard pistol. The EPC is still like a pistol that shoots very obvious projectiles, but it's more its utility, in my opinion, and I think in most people's opinion, holds more value than it's just its normal use. But that is still very much a
yeah,
thing. And then the wave cooker is just all utility. It's like
yeah.
weird, like very quick evolution. And then the plasma charge is like just in the middle. But that's why it's probably the best. Anyway, so yeah, this I wouldn't well, we've talked about Overcharger and Heavy Hitter in comparison to this, and that's why I don't think this is something that's necessarily missing from the EPC, but it would still be very nice to have. Um, Speaking of, well, I was about to say speaking of missing, it's not that electricity is missing; it just could be cool. My balance.
Which I
Well,
think,
okay, we should probably say immediately
yeah,
that our balance are almost identical, and I am already intending to like find the middle ground because I think both could do with adjustments. Yours more
I
so
got
with
you.
some
My idea is
addition.
perfect.
But mine, oh shit! I didn't necessarily want to show the information. I just instinctually clicked the button. I have gone back. So system shock. Well, actually, showing the information is the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah.
So there are some parts of this that could potentially be removed, but it just depends on what half I really prefer. Charge shots and overheating the gun electrocutes enemies around you in a short radius. So it's sort of like aggressive venting, but with electricity. Is the idea behind it, really, but also well and how it functions. That's the idea. But it can also be used from just the charge shots themselves, which is the weird part. And it also sheds heat more quickly, which could be considered a downside, actually, if you want to overheat it to get that electricity. And then normal shots and charge shots generate more heat. And this is actually the negative that I think is. I was about to say I really like. I do think it's interesting though. Overheating consumes ammo equal to your charge shot. Because, but it really comes down to: is there any point in it being both of those things?
Okay. Sorry. I was just caught up thinking, like, couldn't you theoretically do infinite damage? But that final negative does prevent that.
Also, so how could it be
Because
infinite?
you can overheat your gun without shooting.
Oh,
On the EPC.
yeah, you can, can't you? Yeah, no, that's yeah,
But yeah, the bottom
you can
line
do that if you
means
want.
that, because if you charge the gun, but the heat gained, or if you hold it too long and it'll overheat. But yeah, with that final negative, it will just basically be a charge shot, except you don't get the charge shot.
Well, yeah. Oh, that's actually a good point because I was thinking about: is there actually really any point in both of these things being present when they kind of work the same? But I actually forgot about the charge shot itself. And the fact that overheating, yeah, it will help you potentially, but you're still losing ammo, and you're not
Yeah.
getting the charge shot.
If that bottom one wasn't there, then literally you could just overheat, and you'd just be chaining electric, and it'll be it'll be way more broken than neurotoxin. It would actually be the most broken thing in the game without that consuming ammo.
Yeah,
So without you probably even realizing, then that kind of thing.
But I think the weird thing about it is that you would kind of, when you look at that, there's no actual reason to use the overheating deliberately. So I sort of wonder, was there any point even putting electricity on the overheat?
Honestly, I don't see what. I mean, I guess
It could just
making
be
it
it could just be a
electricity.
penalty. It's just you have to avoid overheating, otherwise you're going to lose ammo. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
unless
we've
unless
also got to acknowledge that it doesn't really have to be electricity either. It
no,
could just be,
it could be anything.
it could be just the normal, like what heat dump or whatever it's called. But yeah, I think I don't know. I think overheating is always interesting when guns play into it.
Yeah, and
So,
the EPC kind of just doesn't.
well, I say interesting. Most of the time, it's kind of bad, but it's interesting that they go for it. Like they did it a lot with the Drac, and a bit, with the minigun. Minigun one's alright though, although it's not that good either. Point is, it's fine. I think this is actually alright.
Yeah, and we'll discuss. Well, we're gonna have to do some kind of comparison.
Yeah.
And sort of adjustment, because yeah, I mean, when it comes to sort of suggesting changes and whatnot, it would be better to just sort of do that with both of them in mind. So, that being said, we should probably move on to yours, and as you can see, the logo didn't change.
Yeah. Yeah. As no one's surprised. Well, basically, I think it is. Just get this out of the gate, because clearly you can tell. We both immediately thought that the EPC needs a balanced electric applying overclock.
Yeah.
Which I think makes a lot of sense, because Driller can't apply electricity, and that's kind of weird, because he could apply like every other status effect. You know what I mean? Like, obviously not, but like, he's a pretty status effect heavy character. He doesn't have access to electricity, and the EPC just kind of makes the most sense. Other than, I guess, the wave cooker, but
I don't think the wave cooker really makes sense for electricity. I don't know why, but I don't think it does. I think EPC makes the most sense out of all of his weapons.
Yeah. Well, EPC's projectiles, especially since the Drac, its plasma can carry electricity, so that it also, in universe, plasma can be electrified, which I guess if you were to click, that's basically what I did. We also both went for charge shots being the kind of main thing. You added overcharging, obviously. But this is literally charge shot, steal / apply electricity with minus charge shot damage generally and slowing charge speed. Like half symbol. And this was mainly, like, I came up with this obviously because I wanted electric to be a thing, but also because Flying Nightmare, I think this would be very good.
Right, it's a good point, because what I was going to say about it, like, once we got to criticizing it, I was going to sort of propose maybe the thing that we need to do to sort of come to like the best version of both of ours is, I don't know why, but I've really latched onto the short range aspect of mine specifically, and that it wouldn't be the charge shot itself; it would just be something that happens when you charge shot instead of the charge shot carrying electricity. And I don't know which one's better. And you bringing up Flying Nightmare and then I guess Fin Containment Field as well, still it just makes it more confusing to me, because I don't know if that would be really too strong or not. I have no idea. I don't know why. I feel like it would be easier to balance the sort of the centered radial electric thing rather than the charge shot itself carrying it, because there's so many different versions of the charge shot that can exist even on the base EPC. And how would different damage, like how would increasing charge shot damage or radius affect it? How does Fin Containment Field affect it? I think it's just like having it be an electric blast that comes out of you. It's more easy to balance, but I'm still interested in this.
I suppose, but also not really, because with what you're doing, I don't know, like your charge shot or overheating would take like 3 ammo, let's say, and you would electrocute like everything within a short area around you. Meanwhile, mine would also take, let's say, 3 ammo, because I think that's like the normal amount. I think.
No, you silly boy. No,
5.
8.
Shit in hell.
You're a dum-dum.
Haven't used it in a while. Also, don't say that word.
You can get it down to 4 though, but that's with heat pipe. That's with an overclock. So
fine then. I'm not a nerd who has the game up, so screw me, I guess. Point is,
Maybe you should.
No.
No.
I'm not loading up that fucking game.
That fucking
say
game.
That.
That's it. We've lost all our cred.
All my cred. Wait, I didn't have any cred.
Cred.
Oh, then it's fine then.
That sounds word. That sounds word? That sounds weird.
Word. Point is that you charge a shot or overheat, and it really depends.
Well, no, my actual idea was cutting out the overheating part and sort of just melding ours together. In that we would take the first part of mine and like maybe the penalties of yours, and then that'll be it.
No.
But I do think having the charge, because I didn't consider that having the charger itself apply electricity would actually be quite interesting, especially with Flying Nightmare. It's just I don't know if that would be broken or not. I mean, it being broken is probably highly unlikely, but
it's like the breach cutter dealing electricity. But you know, the breach cutter, it's like, oh cool, you're dealing electricity, but they're gonna fucking die anyway, so it doesn't matter. With the EPC and the Flying Nightmare, that would actually like end up in killing most things.
Yeah.
Grunts and that. I don't know. I think it would be actually like good to have a Flying Nightmare electric kind of thing, and I guess you could use it with the thin containment field, but most things die in that thing as well. It's kind of the same situation. Like, you don't really need electricity if they're going to die anyway.
I mean, it would be really cool to have. I think just in general, having electricity on the EPC would be cool, because then you could
yeah, that much we can both agree with.
Yeah, because then you could have you could use the sludge pump, and you can still set the puddles on fire, but then you can also electrocute enemies. They will basically not be able to move
and be on fire and electric and corroding. Basically, they're fucked.
Yeah, they. That's the part I'm scared about. That's the part that makes me worry. Whoa, what have we done here? But still, put electricity in some form on EPC. Well, that's the point that we get.
I'm sorry, Harry, but fire and the electric isn't that much different to the corrosion status effect that the wave cooker then has, where you can neurotoxin and irradiate them as well.
Correct.
Obviously, they won't be slowed, but you know they're.
I agree.
They're going to take a lot of damage. Like, you know, elemental status effect stacking is a thing that Driller
also,
just does.
I mean, I know. I think I understand why it's not a thing, but it makes sense, right? That corroded enemies would be more flammable, right? It would make sense, but probably isn't in the game for balance reasons. Even to a technical or balancing reasons.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, there's not anything in the game that can change an enemy's temperature, right? Or other than, you know, obviously freezing, or like change the temperature that it requires for them to be frozen or set on light. There's nothing that does that, is there?
No.
Yeah.
No.
So for now, there's no examples of it being a thing, so they'd have to make it a thing, and we don't know how possible that is.
Yeah. Can someone mod all of our ideas into the game? Anyway, yeah. I mean,
because well, I think I mentioned it at the end, but I mentioned it at the end if I remember. But I think generally we can both agree on this. EPC should have an electric.
Yeah, and I think that yours is more immediately balanced. I actually think the penalties are fine. That's why I didn't mention them. I think they're actually good. So yeah, that's the point here. We want electricity on the EPC. Do it. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Talked enough about this crap.
Oh my fucking god.
What?
Go on, talk about it.
What? Now, okay, yeah, I guess most of the stuff about this is an exaggeration. I think there's a core idea I want to get to that I do believe in, but most of this is quite just an exaggeration to fit. I think it's just called the Octo from Borderlands.
Why did you use that icon?
Because I don't know, because you go in and out, I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of this that is just unnecessary fluff, but we can get to the root of it. Charge Shot releases 9 normal shots that move in and out as they travel. We're going to ignore the brackets for now. Fixed Charge Shot cost 9. I wonder why that is. It's because it uses 9 normal shots. Normal shots deal much less damage and have much lower velocity. What's that? No Charge Shot uses default values. Just read it. And of course, octo means 9. That makes sense. Now, there's a lot of things wrong with this. Objectively, I didn't actually realise. Which is just having charge shots use normal shots is immediately a big problem. But like I said, I do think most of the text here is kind of irrelevant to really the point I was trying to make. In that, what I really want is just a shotgun type overclock for the EPC.
It's basically the corrosion one that no one likes.
Yeah, it would be a bit like that, but in this context, it's
Why
like,
do you always copy like overclocks that no one fucking likes?
That wasn't the point of this. This is meant. It's a bit more like salvo module, really.
No.
Yes, and I'll explain why. It's because if you could have the charge shot somehow release normal shots, and obviously the somehow comes from the fact that flying nightmare and thin containment field exist. It's just how they be factored in. It's just utter. It hurts my head to think about. But really, the point is that you could have like a very very high burst damage, and the normal shots deal weak point damage. That's like the shotgun thing. If you can get really close to an enemy, and you can like charge short that weak point, you do a shit ton of damage. But yeah, I mean, like I'm going to say again, this is mostly just fluff. I just want a shotgun type overclock, and I've seen people suggesting. I thought that's neat. But when you get into the logistics of it, you realise that there's no real way for this to exist in a way that makes sense, and doesn't just because you'd have to, like the brackets are me trying to like make the flying nightmare and containment field work with it, but it's just like those sort of like specific effects, like mods having different effects based on your overclock is just nonsense.
All right. I have a couple things, and I'm going to get the first one out of the way because the thing I just realised and it's kind of pissed me off. Why is it called Octo when it shoots 9?
Look at the description.
No,
it's a joke.
No, no, it's not a joke. It's annoying.
No, it's a Borderlands reference.
I don't care if it's a Borderlands reference.
You do.
No, I really don't. If it's not to do with Krieg, I couldn't give less of a shit. But point is, just get rid of the middle one. That should make it a bit interesting. But also, don't do that. Because I think if you actually want to make it something or anything, maybe don't copy like Salvo module and the Sludge Pump one. Maybe try more Breach Cutter in that it shoots like 5 in like a flat line horizontally out of the gun and like slightly spread out. So it's still mainly a shotgun-esque thing, but it's
yeah.
It's not just a square shape like every other shotgun, or it's like a neutral.
Well, no, because I said I said to basically ignore the moving in and out part, but at the same time, no, because if it was just 8 shots, then it would make more sense if they were to move in and out. Because then it's either like they move in and out being a square or essentially concentrated into a single point. So just depending on like when or your like distance from an enemy, you could end up just hitting all over it or hitting multiple enemies or just having it all be in like one spot and hit a weak point. I could imagine that could be enforce some kind of interesting play style, or maybe your idea is better. I don't know.
They always are. What I don't like. Obviously, I like Salvo module, right? I've gotten that out there, but nobody likes the corrosion shotgun. Which
hold on, where did you get that from?
In the name of.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
Why are you believing him?
What?
I always hear people.
Because I agree with it.
I always hear people like they love that. That's all I hear.
Well,
Such
they're wrong.
Yeah, they are
terrible. But I don't know. I mean, the EPC first of all doesn't really need a high instance of damage thing. It's that's kind of what thin containment is used offensively.
Yeah, but that's true. I kind of almost wanted the opposite of that, and that's the thing. The EPC's very nature stops this from being possible because of those things existing. because obviously, like I keep saying, you can't have the charge shot release normal shots. It just doesn't make sense because of how those upgrades would work alongside it. In that they
I
wouldn't.
think if
But I like it's
if
the
I was
weak
to
point thing that
pull,
really catches like my attention is that Fin Containment Field is high area burst damage, but it doesn't really
if I
have
was
a,
to,
a similar level of single target burst damage.
yeah, if I was to pull a U and just fucking pull shit out of my ass, I would pull the like coil gun charged interval equals output in on this. So if you charge shot, but then you like, or you shoot normally, that's 1. Charge it a little bit, that'll be 3. Charge it a little bit more, that'll be like 5. And then like fully charge it, maybe that's like, I don't know, I guess 7. All in like a shotgun spray horizontally, because I've kind of locked onto that idea mentally, because then it's
I don't think it's actually that
different
bad.
visually. And if you're using it at close range, then it will still be, it'll still be a shotgun. Using it a bit longer range, it will mean it will like cover the entire front area with you, like a radar basically, and just like shoot out a bunch of plasma, which might be a bit broken, might not be.
Well,
But
it still doesn't address. It still doesn't address Flying Nightmare or Fin Containment Field, which is really just what I want to do.
Turn them off.
Turn them off. It'll turn them off. So you have
I'm
to.
pretty
There's
sure
no
lots
reason
of
to not
other
use
shit-
plasma burn.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of other things do that. Like,
I don't think they do. I know what you're talking about because it's like I know I'm fairly certain something like that would exist, but I couldn't tell you what it is, which means I don't think there's more than like one other example of this.
yeah, just turn off. Like, just make them shit.
That does simplify it. That does simplify it. So you are in general not against the shotgun idea.
I think that I really have gotten in my head that you can't do wild shit in the game, but then I forget that they often do it themselves.
You just get that you just get that somewhat out of your head because it's not entirely wrong.
Like the fact,
but it's not entirely true either. You need
like the goo bomber special.
It's not black and white.
The goo cannon, shit like that.
Yeah,
it does mean you can be wild, right?
You can be,
but it's just sometimes you go far too fucking far. Like the fucking coil gun using rockets.
Don't talk about that.
That could go fuck off. But as long as it's actually shooting plasma, I think a differently visually looking shotgun would be interesting. Because also the EPC is the closer range of Driller's primaries. Right?
It's definitely the closest range of the 3, I suppose, and that would sort of enforce that.
Not because it can't reach long range, just because everyone else or the other 2 could reach it immediately, like click. Meanwhile, this will take like a good amount of like fucking aiming up to try and get that moving web spurt. Like it's just not really happening. But yeah, this would kind of lean into the close rangeness in an interesting way. Although I'm not sure, like, if it's a charge shot, does that mean if you spec into charge shots, it makes them better, or do you want to spec into normal shots?
Yeah, do you see what? That's why I said quickly after reading it out that I realised a lot about this just can't work. Or just doesn't work. Logistically, doesn't make sense. It's not really worth it. It's not worth the effort of figuring out how it would actually work.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think there is something there. Like a shotgun EPC. A shotgun EPC, I think, is tolerable.
Tolerable. Thanks for that.
You're very welcome. Although I don't think it's inherently needed, considering Drillers mainly close range primaries, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be added.
Well,
I'm an advocate for being able to do basically whatever you want with all of the guns.
I don't think they necessarily. I don't know if that really applies very much so at all, because specifically the flamethrower and cryo cannon aren't high burst damage. The cryo cannon can result in it if you use certain things, and then neither of them are high burst damage. Neither of them are like a shotgun. And then the sludge blast isn't very good. I mean, I think the sludge pump in general is higher burst damage, but that overclock is pretty bad. So you can ignore that, and then you realise, maybe a shotgun could work for Driller.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, and I think the more high instances of damage shotgun,
It's like
Jula has
it's
to
like the Unkempt
use,
Herald
uh,
from Borderlands. You know,
sure,
the
yeah,
pistol, the torque pistol that I always get at the beginning.
yeah, uh, yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Is that basically you charge it? But yeah, I think the more high burst damage options that Jula has, the less overwhelming Axes will be in his utility in
That's
his
I
grenades.
did well. I'd say I didn't think of that, but I don't know why I would think of that. But it is still a good point. Something to
Yeah.
note. It's not why I came up
Because
with
I
this.
mean, it's
but
got many reasons why it's so picked, but mainly because it is the best means of doing high instant damage.
Yeah.
Which I guess this wouldn't exactly be the best at still, because you have to charge it up.
Yeah,
But
that's the
maybe,
thing, because everything else
with
is
the
still slightly, it's like temperature shock. You still have to set things on fire first. But
yeah, there's always just a layer of awkwardness.
well, in general,
to
you get
all
a
this
lot.
high
I think you
intensive
get a
damage.
lot more damage out of that than the axes, of course. But still, the axes are just such.
I think
It's
it
so
also bears in mind
basic
that
and so
you
effective.
will likely use the like hot shots, whatever it's called, which it should be called hot shots if it isn't. But
Called plasma burn.
Yeah, which is shit.
Hot shot.
Hot shots. And it will basically 100% ignite like anything you shoot its ass that can be ignited.
Yeah.
Like, if you got like a full shotgun on a fucking robot, it would just explode. Which I think isn't unbalanced. It's just it'll be fun to do.
It's not unbalanced because he already has the flamethrower.
Yeah,
and I think giving him obviously the EPC is kind of almost there in some ways because like if you use heavy hitter with plasma burn, you can take out turrets quite easily.
Snipers. Yeah.
But honestly, I kind of wish for an option like that so you can just use a different like primary. I mean, I do. I use the sludge pump most of the time on any kind of robot-based mission because it's actually pretty strong still. Obviously, the flamethrower's the flamethrower, but sludge pump's still pretty good at it. Anyway,
RP Choir. Now let's
take away EPC shotgun. Yeah, this thing.
Yeah.
Right.
This was that doesn't mean anything yet. I guess it probably does, but this used to be just like the bouncy one that they used to have on EPC that they got rid of at some point. But then I realized they got rid of it for a pretty solid reason.
If the charge shots could bounce, that'd be pretty cool.
Not really. Doesn't do much. Point is, adhesive bubbles, and it's the web because I don't know, the web's pretty.
It's sticky,
but mainly because it's sticky and it slows enemies down. A bit like your normal shots. Stick to enemies, slowing them down, and deal a small amount of damage over time, and that stacks. Which might be a bit broken. But
no, it's not.
We'll see. Slows projectile speed, so, less good at range, and reduces both damages by a quarter. So the kind of charge shots gets a bit of a drive-by.
It's like it's like Neuro Lasso, but maybe better.
But you shoot to use the effect.
It's already better.
Does damage.
It's immediately better. So obviously the description is kind of like, it's a reference. Incredible. But is it actually does it actually turn into black orbs? No, I want to see them stick to the enemies. I want to.
Yeah. The plasma shots will look like the black orbs, but they won't be the black orbs, but they will just stick to the enemies and you can see them. A bit like tumors, basically. But only to enemies. Because, I don't know, that's probably too much of a game otherwise. But it will slow them down, which is good and all. But then also, I
didn't notice they deal damage every time. That's interesting. Yeah, it's got to be quite low for it.
We're talking like what's it like? Crossbow explode on death.
Yeah.
Stats per shot though. You can stack them up.
That's pretty. I think that works actually. That would be very interesting.
Amount of time.
Yeah.
Like maybe 5 seconds, 10. Of like them being alive until they fizzle off or whatever.
Yeah, and you can fire it quite fast, so you could get a lot in and have them be working at the same time. Yeah. You could slow enemies to a crawl. I mean, you could do that already. You wouldn't use it. You probably wouldn't use this with the cryo cannon, which I like, by the way. Weirdly enough, it probably pairs best with the flamethrower, or just not the cryo cannon really, because just keeping enemies in place. Because obviously the puddles and the corrosion effect does slow enemies down, but like things can still get out of it. But if you could just slow them to an absolute crawl, then they're just stuck, taking more damage over time, and they're stuck in the puddle for longer as well. And then fire, it probably work well with sticky flames, which I don't like saying because I don't like sticky flames, but it probably work well with sticky flames against bigger targets, especially. Tell you what,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I would do. I went not to the positive, the actual effect what this adds. Actually, I don't want to change anything about it. I like it a lot. But penalties, I think making them like drop off, maybe, would be quite funny. Like they're heavy. Like heavy,
No.
like plasma gel, basically, is how it would work. So
Yeah, I get the thought, but the inconvenience would prevent people from using it. Like, even if
yes,
it was
I
good,
do
people
agree.
wouldn't want to fucking use it. But the slowing projectiles will make it more awkward to use it anything past medium to close range.
Well, then,
They'll probably
hold
won't be
on.
there by the time the projectile arrives.
Yeah, so it's basically not worth using at long range anyway. So what's wrong with drop off?
Because drop off would fuck you at every angle.
No, it wouldn't.
Yeah, it would.
It would basically be hit scan at close range still.
No, it's not. Because you're thinking probably slide pump, right?
A bit better than that.
Yeah, because slide pump is fucking unbearable even close range. I often miss because it's just like, where the fuck am I even hitting?
Okay, good for you.
Point is, fuck off. Doesn't need to be more complicated than it is.
Why is that like that?
So yeah, this is the best overclock in the game because
In the
they're
game?
adding it, and then it'll be really good. Well, the thing is it isn't actually doing anything that much special. Like, you kind of inadvertently.
Oh, okay. I have to stop you right there. I don't think
basically-
there's anything in the game that like stacks at all in that way.
I suppose, but
But you
like,
keep adding
shots
onto an
that
effect.
slow enemies and deal damage. That's basically his primaries, and I didn't quite click that, but I still don't take it away from it. It's just I don't know. I guess if you want to do something else with the primaries, like if you wanted to use what's it, like face melter.
Face melter.
Shut up. If you wanted to use face melter, you could use this as
Face
basically
smelter.
any bigger enemies that you're not going to kill immediately. You throw a couple of these bad boys on them, slow them down, boost your damage, and then you'll kill them a bit easier. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think while it would work with stuff that also does this, slows enemies down and deal damage, I think it also would then allow you to do other things, because this will always be an option. You can use the EPC to slow enemies down, give you a bit of room, deal a bit of damage over time. So then you can use primaries for other things, which I can really think of face melter. So yeah.
Or the sludge pump. Well, I guess it would work not terribly as sludge blast, but I'm thinking more volatile impact mixture, which is the one that it's for like direct damage, and it makes like the effects like not weak. Well, I think that's making them weaker. It makes them last less time. It gives them more direct damage. So sort of
just
like
basically
more substitute
for more direct damage builds. This could be something that holds them in place and deals a bit more boost of damage.
Yeah, it'd probably be really good
Which
against.
normally it's
It'd be amazing against dreadnoughts, by the way. You could get them really slow, and like slowing down dreadnoughts is a really underrated strategy.
I think there'll be a cap to the. Honestly, I wasn't even thinking about the slowing.
There should be a cap, shouldn't
there? It was the damage over time thing that I thought was stacking, not slowing. But yeah, I mean,
well, the cap should probably be something. Well, let's think. How much did it slow down an enemy by? 5%?
10 maybe.
10%. Well, I'm thinking 5% because I want this. I think the cap would be better at like a good number of shots it would take to reach the cap. So if it was 5%, then it could be like 15 shots is like the max, because that would be like 75% slowdown, and that would be the cap. for
By the time you do that,
this
I
effect.
imagine the first shots will start despawning, or probably have despawned.
No, I think
I'm
if you
thinking
time it
5
right, you can get
seconds,
oh, 5 seconds. Yeah, probably then. Yeah, in that case. So I thought it was 10 seconds. What we were going with.
I don't know. That might be a bit strong. Because against dreadnoughts, because normally for other things, 10 seconds they'll already be dead probably by the time they hit.
Yeah, most not
dreadnoughts-
most things, but a lot of things would be dead. I mean, guards seem pretty just guards are just bitches. I mean, I love guards, but like they are in such a weird spot where they take a lot more out of your weapons than sashers or grunts, all grunts, normal grunts, just grunts. Stupid guards. Well, like I said, I don't really have any problems with it, so it's good.
It's because I'm the best.
Shut up! Just because.
They're gonna get me down.
Just because. You do have good ideas. Next time it's the wave cooker. I might just change all of mine. No, I'm not going to. But
I would temper with mine, but I don't think a damn. That I
Don't
wanted to mention this because I actually remembered, which I'm kind of surprised by. You mentioned a bit ago, like this was on the podcast, but I'm going to mention it now because it's kind of related. That they have no intentions anytime soon of adding more overclocks. Like that is like basically on the back of their list of things they want to add. What was the quote? It was like we're only going to add more overclocks if we don't find anything else to add or some shit like that.
If they absolutely run out of things to add.
Yeah. So.
I don't. Well, okay. No. But remember, we talked about that, and I said that's like. Well, no one who does the streams is like. I don't think any of them like a big decision maker when it comes to the game's direction. I mean, I think they're more of a team when it comes to that kind of thing anyway. And what they say doesn't necessarily represent, first of all, the truth, right? It's a chance, but it's just not that. It's not really true. And obviously, everything's also subject to change. And they do still like make overclocks sometimes. They have a lot of prototypes, but they just can't get any right. Which is why, if maybe the truth of the matter is that they do want to add some, they're just struggling to come up with ideas.
Clearly, we are.
No. Hire Tyler.
Oh yeah, he's right though. Just hire me, don't I?
Unless you get real silly, and make the silly overclock category, and you can just add all of them without any worries. Silly overclocks.
Silly overclock.
That was an idea though that we mentioned at one point. It was like a new category that we would come up with, and then we do that. But I don't care.
I think. I mean, I don't know. I do like that concept in that it doesn't buff your gun at all. You gain no positive or negative stats. It just fucks around with like the visuals or something like that. Like suddenly your plasma, your EPC is shooting like balloons or something like that, or just some random ass shit. Turns the flamethrower into a confetti cannon. Well, it's quite a cannon. It's probably more suitable. Harry?
So I'm just biting my nails.
Okay. Well, let's wrap this up then, shall we?
No.
Harry? We can make this under an hour if you wrap it up now.
I think it's of course it's under an hour. Actually, okay. Next time Overclock
You said that already. Just rock and stone. End the fucking video.
End the video!